a small community of Ozoba, in Imo State, where tradition and custom was strongly practiced and exercised, there lived a young girl named Adnama. Adnama, who was the only surviving child of her parents, was a very beautiful and charming young lady. But one big challenge Adnama was to face in her life was that she is an outcast. Yes, her parents was rejected by the community because her father named Mr. Amdi, who borrowed a hug some amount of money from the village chief priest and couldn't afford to pay back the debt in the due time. So in order to avoid the wrath of the chief priest, he automatically declared himself and his family outcast, which means that they now belong to the gods, and this made the chief priest to forfeit the debt. Mr. Amdi and his family was immediately declared outcast by the king, and the ritual was performed in the shrine, and this includes that they can't sell or buy from the village or even associate with other villagers except their fellow outcast. As Adnama grew up, she was constantly reminded that she didn't belong. The other children would tease her, calling her names and excluding her from their games. The adults would whisper to each other when she walked by, their eyes filled with suspicion and distrust. Adnama tried to fit in, to be like others. She would watch them and imitate their actions, hoping to be accepted. But no matter how hard she tried, she was always treated like an outsider. This discrimination didn't stop in the village but also followed Adnama to her school. Nobody wanted to associate with her except Kayoma, who is also an outcast like her. In her class, Adnama was given a seat at the back of the class, a little distance from other students. Anytime, Adnama wanted to go and buy something during the break period, one would always have to face humiliation from other students as they will be calling her names. Here the witch comes, they chorus as they make mockery of Adnama. This made Adnama to feel reluctant to go out during break period. Sometimes, she will not buy anything at all and will carry the money her parents gave her to buy something and eat back home. One day, when Adnama came back from school looking very sad, her mother, who noticed her bad mood, became worried. "Why is your face like this?" Mrs. Happiness asked, showing concern. "Why do the villagers hate us so much, mother?" Adnama asked, as tears freely find their way to her chest. "The villagers don't hate us, they are just giving us punishment, but I know that very soon, they will start treating us well like they do before when this punishment is over." Her mother lied, trying to make her daughter feel better. "But, for how long, mother? Since my childhood I have known them to treat us like we are outsiders. You have to see the kind of humiliation and disgrace that I always receive in my school. Some will be calling me outcast, but mother, are we an outcast?" "Who told you that, my child? We are not outcast. Don't worry, my child, everything will be okay," Mrs. Happiness said, feeling sorry for her poor daughter who had to pass through all this pain just because of her father's wrong decision. One day, the prince named Prince Obiora, who doesn't like walking around the village with his guards, was strolling around the village and suddenly, he felt a sharp pain on his left leg. And he fell down because of the pain. Adnama, who was returning back from school, saw him trying to struggle for his life. She immediately rushed to where Prince Obiora was and discovered that he was bitten by a snake. She used her mouth to suck out the snake poison and the prince was relieved a bit. The prince thanked Adnama and promised to return the favor. He asked Adnama her father's name, which she told him, and the prince managed to get back to the palace. After the incident, the prince went to Mr. Amdi's compound to thank Adnama. He went with him to guards carry some tubers of yam, fowl and 2 wrappers. He thanked Mr. Amdi for raising a good daughter and also promised to sponsor Adnama through her college education. Adnama was grateful not only the fact that the prince came to thank her but also that finally, someone came to visit them and also showed them love. When the prince went back, he was worried to know that Adnama was an outcast, because he had already started falling for Adnama's beauty and kindness. One day, the prince summoned the courage to help Adnama and her family. He went to his father and begged his father to cancel the pronunciation of outcast made against Adnama and her family. At first, the king refused to listen to his son. But after much plead from Obiora the prince, the king decided to listen to his only son. He reasoned that his only son is still alive because of the huge sacrifice Adnama made despite the ill treatment and discrimination given to them by the villagers. The king ordered the town crier to gather the villagers, including Adnama and her parents, at the village square. When the villagers had gathered together to know why the king called them, they were surprised to see Adnama and parents at the village gathering. Some people tried to stop them, but the guards intervened. The king then cancelled the declaration made on Adnama and her parents after performing some ritual. Adnama became happy. At last we are free just like other villagers, she said as she hugged her parents when they went back to their hut. Some years later, when Adnama was through with college, the prince proposed to her and they got married and lived happily ever after. The end. Moral lesson 1. Be kind to others, even those that wrong you. Adnama's kindness to the prince changed her destiny for good. Who knows, if she decided to leave the prince to die, there wouldn't have been anyone to intervene for her and her family and would have died as an outcast. Moral lesson 2. Treat everyone equal as humans, because most times, those that we neglect and downgrade are mostly the ones to help us, and also nobody knows tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Please like and share for more of my interesting stories.